I think what still works with Evilginx is this shock factor when you demonstrate it to users and show them how easy it is to take control of their own accounts. My name is Kuba Gretzky. I'm also called as that Evilginx guy. So I made Evilginx. It's a phishing framework for red teamers and also works as a demonstration tool to showcase the vulnerabilities of multi-factor authentication implementations.
So how do admins protect their environment from this sort of like phishing attack and, the MFA bypass?
There's this one weak link of every phishing attack, and it's the
intro chat with Merrill's live, digging deep where techs thrive. From the latest hacks to cool updates, join the ride, don't be late.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Intro Chat. I'm very lucky to have Kuba here joining us. Kuba is the creator of a very popular tool called Evilginx, and it helps so many companies learn about authentication and how to do things right. So let Kuba introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Kuba Gretzky. I'm also called as that Evilginx guy. So I made Evilginx several years ago. It's a phishing framework for red teamers, essentially, and also works as a demonstration tool to showcase the vulnerabilities of modern multi-factor authentication implementations as well. So I've been working in cybersecurity for quite some time. I've started, I think, maybe 15 years ago doing MMO game hacking, and then I got more interested into low-level interference with in reverse engineering, interfering with processes and things like that, and I somehow slowly transitioned into cybersecurity.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so for those who might not be aware of, let's say, what phishing is, right? I just want to make sure we don't make any assumptions for our listeners. There might be folks who are just new to all of this. So let's talk through what is phishing in the first place.
Yeah, it's actually great if someone did not know what phishing is, because that means they never got phished themselves. So it's like living in a bubble a bit. So I'm envious of such scenarios. so essentially, phishing is presenting a user with a fake sign-in page, or essentially a fake sign-in page that they put and incentivize entering the credentials into them by the phished user, and then capturing these credentials and using them for the nefarious means of the attacker, meaning taking control of the account of that person and performing malicious actions on that account.
Nice. I just recall, just last week, my son, he's 7 years old, my youngest, he's in primary school, and he was telling, hey, I learned about phishing because he heard something. I was talking to someone and he heard and said, I learned about phishing in school today. So then I asked him, okay, what does it mean? And he was able to sort of at least frame it and explain. So it's something that you need to know, right? So even as a 7-year-old, they're learning, and his teacher taught him about, what to do, and because they're using Roblox and things like that. So of course, they're using all this, and it's a good way for them to come and learn.
Just to know that there are
things.
Two types of phishing these days, like the one involving the fish and the one that do not. Yeah.
That fishes for users.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So let's jump into Evilginx. Can you explain how Evilginx works from a sort of a technical standpoint?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, Evilginx is standing between the phished user and the server that you are targeting. So specifically, if you, for example, wanted to phish Microsoft users, let's say, then you set up a server with Evilginx installed on it, and that Evilginx server will essentially be a reverse proxy between that user and Microsoft website. So every request made to the Evilginx server will be exactly forwarded with a little bit of modifications as to like preserve the flow of HTTP traffic through the proxy. It will be forwarded to the Microsoft website, and all the responses retrieved from the Microsoft websites will be transferred back to the user. Like the trick here is that Evilginx manages dual direction of TLS connection. So essentially there is a TLS connection between the user and the Evilginx server, and then there is a TLS connection between Evilginx and the Microsoft server. So that actually allows Evilginx server to intercept all the communication that goes through between the users. So there's one requirement for this process to work. You cannot use the real domain, obviously, of the website that you are targeting. You need to set up your own website. So the user actually has to be directed to the server that the attacker controls, so that all the traffic is sent to that server, and then later it's forwarded back to the destination website. But what this allows is essentially during the process of this whole communication, while the user is signing into the portal through the proxy website, they get their all credentials intercepted by Evilginx server, and also the cookies that are later retrieved from the target server with the session tokens that actually keep you authenticated on the website, so that you do not have to repeat this whole process every time you visit the website, also get intercepted by Evilginx. And that's basically, that's when it's game over and the account is taken over.
Right. So for the user is thinking they are signing into the Microsoft login page, but just the domain, the URL is different. And if they miss that, maybe you might be a seasoned security professional and you might be in a hurry and you might miss that. So the user thinks they're the right login page, and the identity provider where you sign in this case, if it's Entra, Entra thinks it's a valid user that's signing in, but it's actually Evilginx or the attacker in the middle that's running to do this and get it. Okay, so
the login IP will be from the Evilginx server. This is like the one thing that's important to keep in mind.
Right, absolutely. And so what's the origin story for Evilginx? Like phishing used to exist before, and Evilginx has changed things a lot in the industry. So what's the origin story, and like how did you come up with the idea? And
I'm always a bit surprised, like when I hear that Evilginx like changed everything, because like the cookie interception was basically something that was used already. Maybe it was maybe not that popularized that much. And that's, I think, when Evilginx came in, like, at the right moment, and just showing that. So going back to the beginning, like the traditional methods of phishing were just cloning a website and putting out the HTML content hosted on some external server for the sole purpose of getting the user to enter their login and password. And then the login and password would be transferred somewhere to the server, stored in the local database, and that's it. And then the user would be probably redirected to some document or whatever. And essentially the issue with that was that the attacker could never figure out if the credentials entered were correct, because they actually only could gather from the form how they were sent out. And I was back then thinking about, I was playing around with exporting cookies from one browser and importing them to another browser. Like there was I forgot what was the reason for this. I wanted to have some sessions preserved between browsers for some applications, something like that. And then I figured out that you can actually like export the cookies from one browser, import them to another one, and you are authenticated on the same account, which was basically how the web has worked since forever, right? And then it was long before I think the cookie stealer malware were so prevalent. So I think there was this most popular, the Redline, I think, stealer or something like that. So that was this is like a malicious software that installs on your PC and just extracts all the cookies from your web browsers. And back then I thought, when I realized how important it is how critical these cookies are really in the browser, I was thinking whether it's possible to do it remotely, essentially, like not required to install like a malicious software on your computer, but remotely intercept these cookies. And then I read some blog posts about Nginx with proxy pass feature, which was essentially like the first ever known, well, maybe not the first one, but one of the most popular ones, the reverse proxy methods of essentially Nginx would take your connection and proxy it forward to another resource to get and act as a middleman. And then there was this OpenResty implementation of Nginx, which was essentially Nginx with Lua scripting. And that Lua scripting allowed me to implement some logic into the structure of how the packets are intercepted, and just capture the cookies, store them in a file, and then later I had like a Python script that would parse these files and extract cookies from them.
Right.
And that's essentially how it started. Like I started playing around with it, and that's how the first Evilginx came out with, which was really hard to use and lots of like a different like moving parts around it.
And so that's the Evilginx 1. That's what you first launched. And now we're at what version?
But now I think it will be 4, like a release in a week with Evilginx Pro coming out. But yeah, I'll probably mention it a bit later. But yeah, so after that, I made like a standalone tool, which was Evilginx 2.0, and it was written in Go and with its own like terminal UI and everything. So no more Nginx, just the name was left behind, because I could not change it afterwards. So yeah, it made no sense. So now it's like Evilginx without Nginx, essentially.
Right. but we'll stick to the name because everyone knows that. So you've been doing this for now, and you have a nice community you built as well, where you help the red teamers do this. And what's the thing that you think, like, why is Evilginx suddenly popular, and why is it used a lot by the red teamers?
Honestly, I do not really know, because at the time when Evilginx came out, there were also like several other tools in the making. Like I talked to Anti-Snatcher, to several other guys who were working, and there was Muraena that was released. There was also Modlishka, which was like a side project, but when Muraena and Modlishka split apart. So like the idea was going around there, and I think what made it popular is like I think the shocking part of figuring out that when you take the Google cookies, you can just intercept them and inject them into a different browser, and it works. It does not check like the IP address. So I think that I think what still works with Evilginx is this shock factor when you demonstrate it to users and show them how easy as it looks, as easy as it is to take control of their own account. So everyone actually is able to identify with this when they see it.
Right. Yeah, it's so easy to prove the value of like why we do all the security things that we do, is that it's becoming more and more easier to phish users, and just raising that awareness, I think, is one of the key things where Evilginx really helps. There are so many demos on YouTube videos, and I know there's recently even a Microsoft show where the 4to5 show where they showed the whole session on Evilginx and how you can protect users, because it's an easy way to show phishing as a live example.
Now I remember, like there was, I don't know if you remember this project, it was called Fire Proxy, something like that. It was released back in the days when HTTPS was not really that common on websites. Even Facebook had HTTP, just plain text. And this tool actually made rounds because it showed how easy it is to intercept the sessions on the local network. It would just intercept like the packets with some ARP spoofing, like man in the middle on the local network, and it would allow you to just hijack every single account that came across on the same network. So this was insane. So I think after learning how this tool like made like this shocking revelation, maybe I took a bit into Evilginx, and also knew that this is also probably going to be like a big deal to show it, even though I did not know how of a big deal it was back then.
Yeah, because I think before we would all just make mock pages and just have a static HTML site which looked like the Microsoft login page. So people used to customize the login page and put their own logos. Then you would know that it's not your company login page with the logo. But now the tools are becoming better where they can sort of get things in the middle. And Evilginx helps teams because like now people can just go to Signal and you don't even need to stand up all the infrastructure, right? Like that's what the attackers do. They just go and pay someone like a few dollars and you can say who you want to phish, and
it's like phishing as a service.
As a service, right? So you don't need to be technical to even phish someone, and Evilginx helps red teams sort of make that case and
just set it up themselves and see if their websites are prone to the attacks or how to improve them. Because there are also, maybe I'll mention later, like simple ways to make these kind of phishing attacks harder, but I still do not see many of such implementations online.
Absolutely. And that's one reason why I wanted to get you on the podcast, so we can share more of that. What are some of the real world scenarios where you've seen phishing? I mean, not using Evilginx, but where you have come across some of these happening in the wild? Have you been phished?
No, not yet. Although I'm still waiting, maybe by someone trying to use Evilginx to phish me. I don't know. Well, of course, like there's a way to figure out when there are more advanced attacks and less advanced. Like I think the most advanced that I've seen in the last years were the ones that actually involved this browser in the browser kind of technique that would create a fake pop-up window within your browser that would show the login page within the browser itself, and it would seem to you that it's like a window of your operating system, but it's not. So you could actually spoof all the URLs in it. So this is something that I want to like demonstrate a bit more, because the Wild Mass I think last year made a really great demonstration of how this tool works. Like Mr. Docs before pioneered this method with his JavaScript. And what I wanted to say, essentially, what I know about the attacks. Well, I do not work in threat intel really, so I do not know of any real case scenarios. I get most of the news about phishing attacks from the media, and I think like the one that I remembered the most was when Linus Tech Tips, this YouTube channel that some people may know. That was like a big case of MFA phishing essentially. I think the first time they actually got phished with a cookie stealing malware. But the second time, I think, which was more recent one, a few months ago, they got phished with an phishing taking control, like a MFA bypass attack. They got like an email of someone from unknown IP logging into their Twitter account with the link to lock down their account, and actually that link was the phishing link. So like, all it gets is just to send out this impulse to the person, like in a kind of like a scare factor, you could say, to make a decision by impulse and not think it through properly enough.
Yeah, that's true. So how do admins protect their environment from this sort of like phishing attacks and the MFA bypass and so on? What in your opinion, what are the things that you think they should be looking at doing?
So I think like the one thing that is, I think, the easiest and the easiest to implement by the website owners, developers, is like there's this one weak link of every phishing attack, and it's the domain. Like if the user does not need to check the domain, because it's hard enough to sometimes differentiate between the real one and the fake one. But the website can. Like there are you can access the document location object through JavaScript on the website, and it actually is unspoofable. You cannot replace its values with JavaScript and things like that. There were some vulnerabilities back in the days, like I think 10 years ago, but all of these were fixed, and the script before you log into the website can actually check the phishing website and just the phishing the domain in the URL of the browser that the user is using, and just compare it to the one that is supposed to be there, and just log the user out. So with Evilginx, how you would bypass that, you need to put some extra work to actually intercept the JavaScript being retrieved from the website and then modify it on the fly. But then if you also obfuscate this JavaScript and make it dynamic and make it change every time, then Evilginx is only able to handle like some static signature detection. So then you would have to put some extra effort into making actually this to perform this attack against this website. You can also protect it with Cloudflare, of course. There are some ways to bypass that as well, but essentially what I've seen being done in recent years is this kind of like what I call like a shadow token. So basically a website, before you log in, gathers a telemetry from the browser, like be it video cards, including the domain that's in the URL address bar, and they encrypt it into a blob of data that is being sent with the sign-in packet with your credentials, and then it is decrypted on the server. The values are analyzed, and then they see, okay, so actually the domain check is done on the server side back then, and if the domain does not, that's what, for example, LinkedIn has started doing some time ago, and I see that Microsoft is still developing this method, which is great. I just did not never get any answer like in why it is implemented on LinkedIn and not in Entra, for example, because they could like copy the same method and it would work out really well. And
so that's basically a fingerprint, right? So you're doing a fingerprint sort of thing of the user's browser.
Yeah, it's a fingerprint with the data that essentially can tell the server that the request originated from the phishing server, or like through the phishing session. So when it includes like this phishing domain within this encrypted blob of data, then LinkedIn, for example, locks the account, and you have to unlock it with extra verification, because then they know you actually got phished, like because you entered your MFA and everything, and then someone actually used it from a different place. So this is like and these two things you can do, and I think the third one is like this conditional access, right? That was implemented in Entra some time ago, and I think it was the direct response to adversary in the middle attacks that were happening, that keep happening with Entra, and how you configure conditional access. I'm no expert, like in the administrating Entra instances, but from what I know, you can like implement geolocation. Then of course, like Evilginx would have to be installed in a specific IP range for this attack to work. Then I think what can be done as well is just force all the employees of the company to use a VPN to log in, because if actually like the VPN will then use like the local IP to connect to, and the attacker would need to have access to this VPN that's installed on the Evilginx server, so that they can also connect to it to proxy the internal website from the server to the outside.
And so with conditional access, the simplest one is to do the device compliance, because we ask the device to issue like verify itself by sharing a certificate that's been registered before, and obviously the man attacker in the middle will not be able to give that cert because
Exactly.
it's tied to the domain, and it can only be the browser only issues it to the domain that it was registered with. So that's the one that's always been there, and what a lot of companies, like all enterprise organizations, Microsoft recommends, right, that they do the device compliance, which is good for all of the employee devices. And going back to your LinkedIn thing, so I think the catch there is you need to have both the app that the user is signing in and the login page to be the same, which is good for LinkedIn, sort of, right? Because
But if you
they
have
own
tenants
both
that are
of those
like
flows.
managed by separate companies,
Yeah,
then it's
if it's different
that was
companies,
my
because
thought.
the app can be SailPoint or Salesforce, and the
That's
identity
true.
provider can be somebody else. Then what you need is sort of an industry standard for the apps to exchange that information, and then that's going to take years to come.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
For
exactly.
people to do. And I think everyone is leaning more towards passkeys and 502, which is one of the other ways to break sort of the phishing.
Yeah, basically
flow,
it's
right?
like
So
100% protection. Essentially, it just
with the
involves some work
502.
from the company to make all the adoption process of this method of authentication, like to streamline it. And sometimes there are issues, probably more like logistical issues rather than other.
Yeah, with the passkeys and 502, you can sort of restrict that unless you're sort of like a whole nation running a proxy in the middle.
Yeah.
Then you can control even the DNS, right?
Yeah, well,
Then makes it harder.
that's true. Then you can forge your own certificates for every domain.
Yeah.
Then and you're also a certificate authority installed in your users. So yeah, that's basically game over, and no FIDO will actually help you. But yeah.
Yeah, so when you're like, that's why you need to be careful when you're traveling into countries where there's a whole, like a country level attacker in the middle.
That's true. Yeah, essentially, I think what's good is that the mobile applications actually have some sort of certificate pinning implemented. I think Google has, I believe. So even if someone wanted to replace the Google certificate on the DNS spoofing attack, then it would.
Correct. Yeah. The key sites, they are all certificate pinned, so you can't do that.
Exactly.
There's also certificate-based authentication where that cert is then tied to the domain. That makes it harder.
The private key is owned by the person who actually owns it, so to not be that easy for the nation state, I think, to fake it as well.
Yeah, that's true. So how can an org detect Evilginx?
I think right now, I think the public version of Evilginx always had like this HTTP header being sent, which is like x-Evilginx with the phishing domain as a value. So, but most people just learned about it and they just remove it. And but it was like an Easter egg to maybe prevent too much misuse, like with the tool.
The script kiddies from the more serious.
Like last year, I talked about. I don't know if you're familiar with JA4 or free. Like these are like a TLS connection, like signaturing TLS connection. So when the client connects to the destination server, they will send this TLS client hello packet with the list of TLS ciphers it supports. So it can be like ECDHA, it can be like some other Diffie-Hellman, like there's like a whole bunch of them. And essentially this this list can serve as a fingerprint of the library that is being used, the TLS library that's being used to connect to the destination server. So Chrome, for example, uses Boring SSL, I think, at the moment, and they have their own signature. And there's like this whole library created by John Althouse, JA4 Plus. It's like a suite of different methods of fingerprinting, especially TLS connections. And you can actually connect on the Microsoft server side, for example. You can detect if it's a a tool like Coral maybe connecting, or it's
Right.
a Go application, which is Evilginx, for example. So they will have like their own
Interesting. Right.
specific TLS client hello, the list of specific ciphers. So this is something that I think is already is being done by Cloudflare, for example, when they actually do the reverse proxying to protect against attacks on the website that they will do. Because I remember when I did some testing with Evilginx, like I think 2 years ago, I got like blocked every time, and I did not know why. And then I figured out it's like this JA4 signature. So now I also implemented like this kind of like a signature spoofing that will randomize the TLS ciphers. But don't worry, like this is not coming out in the public version of Evilginx. So yeah.
Okay, so that's neat. So that's based on the. It'll be different, right, from what Chrome uses.
Yes.
And like that, because Chrome, the language it's written in is different from like what
Chrome is essentially using boring SSL libraries for initiating TLS connections. So the boring SSL library has its own specific signature, and it will be different from curl, for example. It will be different from Go libraries that use its own TLS library. So you can then pinpoint and block access coming from unknown TLS libraries, essentially.
That's interesting. I hadn't known about that.
Yeah, did you know? It's like every day there's something new coming out, and you just keep learning and hearing about this stuff to just keep up to date.
Cool. So next we go on to like user education, right? Like lots of organizations do training and train users. What are your thoughts on that? Like, can people be trained not to be phished? There are always like two sides of the arguments. There are those who say you shouldn't do that, make the users feel bad, but there are others who say, it helps you understand, it helps users learn that they've been phished and raises their, like, makes them be more aware when they're visiting websites.
So I think like the good way to reward the users in companies, for example, to report phishing is good. I heard it in some other podcast. I forgot the name of the person who actually said that, so sorry.
Right.
But what he said was to not put like negative opinions on people who actually get phished, because this will actually prevent them from reporting phishing the next time, and this is like a psychological aspect of it, and I totally agree. Like if I were if I was getting like a negative points every time I actually get phished or click a link, then I would just stop doing it. And even if I knew I got phished, I would just think maybe nobody will notice, right? Because I don't want more negative points, right? So it's better to keep rewarding users positively for reports, and even for reporting the phishing attempt that they actually fell for, then rather. And also I will not be like telling users to check the domain in the URL, because like everyone has kept saying it for so many years, and it just is not possible. Like the advanced attackers will make it like smart attackers will make it hard enough to realize for casual users to figure out that it's a phishing domain that they are on. So I think like more important, I think how I how I prevent myself from falling into scams and other things like that is to be aware of like random people that I do not know and telling me to do something like right now because time is running out or something like that. And that should be always like a red flag that something is not right, and you should probably take things slow, maybe ask them for the number, maybe call back the place that they are telling that they're calling from. Then also if you get the link telling you that someone else logged into your account, do not go to the website through this link that was provided for convenience. Just, the URL of the website, just type it in yourself and then log in and check it out. And I think most of the suggestions I would say are like this.
Right. Nice. Yeah, that's one thing I tell my kids, right? If someone is calling you and telling you to do something in a hurry, always just take a step back and, assess and not get caught up in that moment, right? And that's when you make mistakes. But I mean, it's not foolproof because we're all human, and it can happen at the weakest point.
Of course, that's why phishing is still like the most common way of getting into getting a foothold in companies and things like that, because it's social engineering.
Correct. Yeah, almost every attack you see, it always starts with some sort of phishing is a very common one, and then some sort of social engineering is one. Cool. So when you built this and you provided this tool, as a creator of this tool, it can be used for both good and bad. And I've heard from some of the folks, even at Microsoft, who work, that when they were helping a customer, that Evilginx was used by the attackers. So how do you navigate, this
ethical space
challenges?
Yeah, the ethical challenges. Yeah, so essentially, like you said, it's a double-edged sword. So releasing something that actually makes the point of showing how things can be vulnerable and how they are vulnerable. It also allows the users who do not possess that extra capabilities to develop such tools themselves, that provides them easy access to just ready to use tool that they can use to phish other users. So my first priority was not to make it, well, it is a bit easy to use, but I did not want to later implement more features for convenience for bad guys, essentially, because I know that it's essentially that will be the most common you could say demographic that I would be supporting that way, right? Yes. So that's why I made this decision to divide this this kind of a whole space of this phishing framework and make a pro version only for red teamers, people who work in offensive security, working in legitimate cybersecurity companies. There's a whole vetting process of checking if this person really works there, if they have a valid LinkedIn profile, if they have an email on the company domain that later is used for verification. And I want to support these kind of people, right? Because they actually need some help, because they try to show their clients that where the vulnerabilities are, and they also do not want to fight with the detections that are against the bad guys, implemented against the bad guys who actually should get blocked, right? So for me, I'm really happy that Evilginx, the public version, is getting blocked, because it should. I also do not want it to be super stealth and successful. I think Luke Jennings from Push Security develops this browser extension that you can install in your browser, and it actually specifically targets Evilginx as well in the user session in the client, which is super interesting to look at, even what kind of signatures this kind of extension can look for, because other than that, you usually you would just see online scanners scanning for phishing URLs and then looking for signatures on the phishing page itself. And now you can see there's also an extension that actually is able to analyze inject its own JavaScript into the website and do some additional testing. Even if it detects like a Evilginx cookie in the browser itself that was being set by the Evilginx server, then it's like an indicator that the website is using Evilginx. So it's really cool to see that this whole like space is evolving. And I also like made sure that the pro version is has a lot of like anti-cracking protections. I think some people would say challenge accepted, right? But I assume it's gonna get leaked eventually. Like the binaries will get leaked because it's something that just is a matter of time, right? Like and I wanted to prepare for it beforehand and make it hard enough to bypass all the protections that I implemented, even if someone has access to the valid account to use it, to prevent it from like making it like spread the use of it across the bad actors.
Yeah. Right. So so most people would be like, I'll sell to anyone and make money, but you're actually putting in a lot of effort. And I know you have that closed community. I'm in there as well on Discord.
Yeah.
And I know you do the vetting process. Like I'm sure it takes a lot of time, right?
Oh yes,
like,
it does.
time and effort. When you could be, people who want to make money would just be like, trying to sell what they made and just make money out of that.
No, I'm like forcefully like
you're like, no, I don't want your money, right?
Yes, exactly. No,
from the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And you put in so much time and effort to
I think it's
make sure
for
that
the
only
better,
the right
like,
people
for the future, like to keep it like intact and everything. And I think it's like it's the value in itself. And also like this whole community, like the side effect of it was to like help people socialize because the people are also more willing to share their findings among people who they know they are also vetted and trusted, and they are not bad guys. And I think this is like this whole thing like is a value in itself that I really like how it turned out.
Absolutely, and it's like when you first started, I was like, it wasn't really clear how it would look, but
I also didn't know, like
community grow.
It's like an iterating on the idea,
Yes, and it's amazing. So I really admire like all of that you do and making sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, and putting in that time. Like I'm 100% sure it's you don't want to do that. You won't be like hacking away and writing code, but then you want to make sure that it's not used in the wrong way.
Exactly.
So hats off to you for that. So what are, to close things off, like what are insights you can give red teams and pen testers to learn from Evilginx, to help strengthen M365? Like how can they use Evilginx, and like in general, what can they learn as they use Evilginx?
Well, what they can learn, like my main goal is to actually make the life of the red teamer who needs to use phishing to get into like a company somehow, to make it easier and with less like work overhead they have to do in terms of by like evading detections and things like that. So this is my main priority with Evilginx Pro, to just save time for people who work in cybersecurity. And then when they work with the blue team, they can also say that, you see, I used this and this, and that this is how I bypassed your like phishing protections, for example. And then like everyone can learn in the process, nobody gets hurt, and essentially like that's how I would want like this utopian vision of people using Evilginx Pro. And also like I wanted to just also mention the most amazing thing that has been happening recently is I'm learning from other users how to use Evilginx, even because like there's like these fish lists that you can write to target another browser, and people like I made it in like a framework, so you can develop your own like JavaScript and thing for the fish list. And sometimes I see really smart ways of creating like bypassing reCAPTCHA, for example, and things like that. And these are the things that I did not think about myself. So like this whole like community thing really works out because it allows everyone to to just get better, like in what they are
Yes.
doing, essentially, including me.
And me, yeah, absolutely. And I've seen this when I work with customers. Like you would have seen, Microsoft has been like from like forever telling people to use MFA. Any form of MFA is good as the first thing, because we had the struggle to enforce MFA, and even now there are lots of exclusions. Like they exclude MFA if it's coming from inside. So just doing MFA has been a struggle, and then now we are trying to get people to use phishing resistant MFA, and things like Evilginx really help that case to show the stakeholders, look, it's so easy to get in if you don't
That's
do
true.
MFA, and if you just username and password, this is how easy it is to phish someone, right? You don't even need a working version.
It's important to show them that
if
they
you
will
can.
lose more money when they do not do this, rather than use
Yes.
money to implement this, which is not that hard most often. Like even the simple MFA is just works and is better than no MFA.
Absolutely. And Evilginx helps people, stakeholders and companies understand this, and even lay people understand this before they get compromised,
Yes.
right? Because eventually they are going to get compromised by someone, doing a spray and, phishing users in bulk. And Evilginx helps everyone, the good guys, highlight the
To see
risk
what could happen.
and get
Yeah.
people to move. Exactly. Before, you pay the price
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
someone getting in and going all the way.
Before you need to pay the
yeah.
ransom for encrypted
Absolutely.
files.
Yeah. My day job used to be trying to convince people to do MFA and do MFA everywhere. And like even now, if you see the digital defense report that Microsoft publishes, it's a lot like no MFA. And Microsoft is now enforcing MFA for Azure Portal and M365.
It's a good
And there's still
development.
so much resistance. And there's still so much resistance to people who are not ready
Yeah.
to do that, like not having any exclusions for MFA. And so it's Evilginx really helps in those sorts of scenarios, and just all the videos and the things that people create, and being able to demo the thing and then go, oh yeah, like it's so easy
Exactly.
to.
And I'm super happy
set
to
this
hear
up.
it every time that it's not only used by the bad guys, so I can feel a bit better about
Yes.
myself. You know,
No,
that
absolutely.
not all the
That's-
blue teamers hate me, maybe. So I try to whitewash myself. Yeah.
Not necessarily. So even I made a demo to show, because like we have, for example, on Windows Hello for Business is phishing resistant, right? So almost all modern laptops
Yes.
come with that built in.
Yes.
And it's so easy to turn that on now, but it's not, right? Like people don't turn that on, and it's a really easy way to do.
I think there's
move
like
to the
one
phishing
thing that
resistance.
is like also a psychological factor preventing people from actually implementing it. I think it started with these hardware keys. So you get like this hardware key, just like a really small, tiny thing that you can like
Yes.
lose it in a minute. And I think most people do not get the answer. I think every company that actually tries to get people to use hardware keys or other like FIDO compliant solution should first inform them what happens if they lose it. Like how can they still regain access to their account? Because this is like I have this thought like in my head, and I know how it works, and this is always like a big concern for me. Like what happens if I lose my phone? I have all my passkeys there, right? So what is the thing the recovery method that I can use to regain access to? So I think this is like the first step that most companies have to take, and then it's gonna be much more smooth in like having people adopt to the new techniques. Yeah.
Cool. Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Kuba.
Thank you, Nero.
And let us know, like you have some new things coming out. So you have Evilginx, you were mentioning version 4.
Yeah, so Evilginx Pro is releasing finally after like more than a year of development. It was supposed to release like last year in the first quarter, and then it became a meme that like every 3 months I kept saying, okay, next quarter. It just turned out to be a lot of
when
work.
people ask me at Microsoft, when is this feature coming? Like,
Yes, exactly.
what's the ETA? Is it on the roadmap?
Exactly. Yeah, it's really hard to sometimes assess how much things will take time, and then you
Effort.
keep adding stuff to it because you think, okay, it also needs that and that and that. So yeah,
Yes.
finally it's releasing on the 25th of February. So
Nice.
probably when this
Probably it's already out
this
by
video
the
is
time
out, and
this
it's
pod-
already released. So yeah, so you can go to evilginx.com and and you can learn
Cool.
more about it.
And so is it an update to both the community edition and the pro edition? Or
It's
is
just
it more in
the pro. I think the community edition will receive several quality of life updates, but in the coming weeks, because right now I just have to focus. Mostly I focus also on this whole BreakDev website with the registrations and vetting process and everything.
Yeah.
It's like it
ahead,
became a
right.
totally separate product on its own. That only just So it's also funny that I made like this whole shop engine from scratch because I wanted to work exactly how it works, and then I'm letting
built
in
the
all the offensive security people to pen test it for me when they. So it's gonna be like pretty secure, or it's gonna be like it will blow up like in a few days. So.
Right. So BreakDev is the company.
Yes, it's essentially like it started with breakdev.org, like the blog, and then there's BreakDev Red, where this whole panel is with where people can log in. There will be Evilginx like options to buy it, to manage the licenses for employees and everything. This whole vetting process is inside, so it's like a all-in-one solution. It's like I want to make it like a Steam for security software, like at some point maybe we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, and you have a course as well.
Oh yes, there's also like Evilginx Mastery course that I released 2 years ago. That also like it teaches all the ropes how to create your own fishlets, how to target websites. And also there's a training lab involved with where I implemented all of the most modern protections against phishing that shows the user how hard it is to bypass some of them, so they also know how to implement them themselves. And
beautiful. So Evilginx 4, and what are the highlights in the Pro
version? What are the highlights? So essentially, I redid the whole architecture. So now it's like a client server. Okay. So it's like a client is running on your local PC, and you can deploy servers straight from the terminal application. So so every server is working as a daemon, and you can connect to it. You can there's an API exposed on every server, so you can also automate it with the other tools that you may be developing, like Python scripts and things like that. There's also BotGuard that prevents from accessing your phishing page through like online scanners. There is this Evil Puppet module that allows you to run a browser in the background to capture these shadow tokens to later inject. So this is like to bypass the most modern, the ones that I talked on the example of LinkedIn with the telemetry data being put into this encrypted blob of data. And there are like also many more. Like I've outlined them on the website. There's also like a full list of them. But it's also like after release, I plan to also keep adding more. Now I can focus on implementing the more hacking stuff, because I had to manage too much of the outer like boundaries of releasing the product for now. But yeah, everything is basically working done. There's a closed beta that's going for a month now, and it's going well. So
nice. Yeah, and I'm glad you're keeping it in the pro version.
Yes, yeah.
And making sure, doing your best to make sure that only the good guys get it. So thank you so much. Well, it's been a pleasure. Any
pleasure for me as well. Thank you for having me. Don't get fished, maybe.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes, we should put that on the t-shirt. Right. Don't get fished. Thank you so much, Kuba.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you all in the next episode.
Okay.